Well, look, was it as comfortable as I probably would have rathered? No, it wasn't. But Manchester City are through to the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup tonight with a 3-1 victory away over Swansea. And look, overall, it's a positive result. We're through to the quarterfinals. We can't complain. But we do have to talk about that first half a little bit because it was a little bit worrying, that performance in the first half. But we're going to start off with some of the positives. And we're going to talk about, of course, the main positive from the game today, which is Rayan Cherki. Absolutely unbelievable. I've been raving about this boy for weeks now about how he needs to start in this Manchester City side. He's the difference. He is the player that can elevate us to that next level creatively, and he proved that today. Absolutely outrageous all over the pitch. It wasn't just the fact he was man of the match, it was the fact that he was levels above any player on that pitch. He was absolutely outrageous tonight, an unbelievable talent, and a goal and assist for him as well. And specifically in that first half was what actually really impressed me as well, because Manchester City, we were really sloppy overall. We were giving the ball away quite easily at the back. We were not playing well in our build-up. We weren't really creating that many chances. Everything we did well in the first half came through Rayan Cherki. Every single time we did anything, Rayan Cherki would grab the ball, he'd pick it up, and he would demand. And you could see him as well. You can see him as well pointing to players where to be. He seems to have a little bit of leadership about him as well, which is something which is quite exciting to see as well. So Rayan Cherki, I mean, he was absolutely unbelievable tonight. The assist as well for Omar Marmoush, the way he took his goal, he looks like a special talent, and I have no doubts whatsoever that Rayan Cherki is going to be a big player for us going forward. He needs to start against Bournemouth. But look, let's talk about that first half a little bit, because it was a little bit worrying. Kusanov, I don't think, had a great performance, giving the ball away quite loosely at times. At the back, we could have easily conceded a goal from one of his short passes across the back line. And look, overall, he's coming back from injury. There was a lot of players coming back from injury in that first half. So it's not like I'm going to sit here and, I'm not going to have a go at any players and say they're absolutely awful or whatever, because the reality of it is that Kusanov, he's been injured coming back into the side. Rayan Nori, he's been injured coming back into the side. Ake, not really played that many solid minutes, so he's a little bit rusty. And some other players throughout the side as well, obviously, are coming back into it, like Cherki, like Omar Marmoush. So I'm going to, give it a pass for the large part, because overall, a lot of those players haven't played with each other before, and there are a lot of injuries and players coming back in not fully fit. So there's a lot to obviously excuse that first half, but regardless, we should have played better against Swansea. That is the reality of it. And we didn't have a good performance, and we got punished. We went 1-0 down in the game, and I've got to say, that was an absolutely outrageous finish. Forgot the name of the player now. I did have it in my head before, but that was an outrageous finish from him. And, there's not really too much you can do about it. There should have been better defending on the edge of the box from Rayan Nori. Maybe we should have closed him down a bit better, but the finish was just ridiculous. It was over the top of Trafford. It dips just before, under the bar, just as it's obviously rising and coming down. It's an absolutely ridiculous strike. So fair play to the guy who scored it. I mean, that was an unbelievable strike. And then look, for the remainder of the first half, overall, I thought we were quite slow, quite sluggish. We took a while to get back into the game. Towards the end of the first half, we did start to create a few chances, and luckily we get back on the score sheet. Jeremy Doku with a nice little cut inside, and I don't think he performed that well overall, but he did get, I think it's his goal, although it does take a pretty big deflection. He cuts it on his right foot, he gets the strike off, and it takes a deflection, goes into the back of the net. That's Manchester City 1-1 just before the break, which was a big goal, to be fair, because we weren't performing that well in that moment in the game. Then in the second half, I thought we were better. I don't think we were still, back at anywhere near our best. But we were a little bit better in the second half. We were creating more chances, had a bit more control. And then when the substitutes came on, Vardio, Foden, and who was the other one? That was another player. I forgot now. John Stones. When those three came on, we leveled up. We controlled the game completely. We absolutely dominated possession. And you can see the level change in terms of dominating the game, pinning Swansea in, keeping the ball. It went up a level once those three players came onto the pitch. And then from that point onwards, we were the dominant force, and it just looked like an inevitability of when we scored the goal. And then Omar Marmoush fires us into the lead. It's a fantastic goal overall. Rayan Cherki with a lovely little pass into his feet finds him in between a few players, and then Omar Marmoush uses his body perfectly just to roll the defender, invites him in, rolls him, and then it's an absolutely outrageous finish into the roof of the net. It's a Sergio Aguero-esque finish, the way that he just fires it from the near post into the roof of the net. That's Manchester City 2-1 up in the game, and then in the final moments, it's Rayan Cherki who gives us the comfortable victory scoreline as he pounces on the end of a bit of a loose pass, if we're being completely honest, from Josko Gvardiol. I think it's into the path of Omar Marmoush, or it's intended to go to the path of Marmoush. It doesn't find its target, but it finds Rayan Cherki, who picks it up. He gets inside the box and then finishes it across into the far corner. And that completed an absolutely stunning performance from Rayan Cherki. I thought he was the difference maker today. There's two players, obviously, that caught my eye in the game today. Omar Marmoush, not everything went well for him. Obviously he's coming back from an injury. He's still not looking fully sharp, fully fit. But you can just see he's so much more of a goal threat than anyone else in the team. We saw that with the finish. We've seen that overall. He's one of those players that if he gets the opportunity to take a strike, he will. So yeah, Omar Marmoush is definitely a player that impressed me in terms of just his overall eye for goal. I mean, we know it, but it's nice to see it back on the pitch because there's been too many times I've been seeing players like Doku, Savinho, Bob pass up shooting opportunities because they're not confident in their shooting ability. Marmoush is. And then Rayan Cherki, of course, he is, for me, he has to start against Bournemouth. It's not even a question of whether he starts or not. He has to be in that starting 11. Just too good of a footballer not to be in the 11. One of the really downsides from tonight, and I hate to call them out because I was a massive fan of him when he was first coming through last season before, obviously, the leg break. Oscar Bob. It's been really, really poor over the last couple of weeks. No substance whatsoever. You can tell he's outrageously talented, but the way that he just is so indecisive in the final third, you can read him so easily. You know what he's going to do. He's always going to try and cut back on that left foot. Players are now starting to read it. And the thing is about Oscar Bob, when he was first breaking through, is he had that confidence to run at players, carried the ball so well. And he could go both ways, and he was impossible to be able to deal with, and he had an eye for goal as well. All of that has seemed to gone out of his game. I think he's massively lacking confidence at the moment. He's clearly talented. I think that he's good enough to play for Manchester City when he's fully at his pomp. He's got a lot of potential, but at the moment, I mean, I just don't know what is wrong with him. He seems absolutely lost. Every single time he gets the ball, he doesn't want to take on his fullback. When he does take on his fullback, it's always the same thing he tries to pull off. Really indecisive as well in key moments. And yeah, it's just very unlike the Oscar Bob that we saw come through. So a little bit worrying in terms of Oscar Bob. But overall, I thought Nico Gonzalez had a good performance today. You would expect him to have a good performance in the midfield against Swansea. But I thought he was good. Divine Mukasa, we didn't really get to see too much of him, if we're being completely honest. We didn't really get to see too much. A few moments, but, overall, he was a little bit out the game. And obviously, he came off in the initial substitutions for Foden. And other than that, I thought Nori was a little bit rusty. I'm trying to think of who else. Rico Lewis, I actually thought had a good game, to be fair. Rico Lewis was good in the midfield coming in, playing that role. Thought he had a bright game today. Always like Rico Lewis in these type of games. Such a technically good footballer. Yeah, he had a good performance today. And other than that, I thought James Trafford, I mean, didn't really get too much to do other than obviously the shot that went over him into the goal. The thing is I don't want to read too much into the game because obviously there's a lot of players that were coming into the side, like I said. So I'm not going to get too up in arms. Obviously, you expect to beat Swansea. We executed the victory away from home. We're into the quarterfinals. There's no need to be doom and gloom about it, even though it was a poor performance in the first half. There are reasons, I think, for that poor performance, but we managed to fix up and win the game. So I'm not going to be too downbeat about it. But yeah, those are kind of my overall thoughts from the game today. Let me know what you guys think of the 3-1 victory over Swansea. Overall, happy to go through to the quarterfinals. Looking forward. I've not quite seen who we've drawn yet. If we do draw tonight, I'm not quite sure. But I'll be eagerly waiting to see who we get in the next round in the quarterfinals. And a big game against Bournemouth on the weekend. My one takeaway, if there's one takeaway to take away from that game, Rayan Cherki needs to start against Bournemouth because he is absolutely outrageous. Unbelievable performance. And yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are of the game in the comments below. But yeah, overall, happy. Despite obviously quite a poor first half. But we're through to the quarterfinals. Can't complain.